The galaxy was full of soldiers, warriors, and mercenaries who would do anything for glory. But Captain Ryan Hale was not one of them. He was quiet, calm, and always seemed one step behind the noise of war. Some said he was too human, too emotional, too fragile for deep space missions. But the Terran command trusted him, they always did. When the Galactic Council announced a royal escort mission for the Varith Empire's Princess Lyra, no one wanted to go. The Varith were proud, tall, and cruel toward humans. They called Terrans soft creatures, born on a weak world that needed machines to survive. The escort mission was meant to be a show of peace, but everyone knew it was a trap for humiliation. Ryan stood in the command hall as the assignment came down. His superiors whispered, "He'll never survive it," but he only nodded, understood, and walked out. He didn't ask for honor or pay, he simply accepted, like a man walking into a storm. When he arrived at the royal dock, the air shimmered with the glow of the Varith flagship. Its hull looked like liquid silver, its banners burning with golden fire. Princess Lyra waited at the top of the ramp, surrounded by her elite guards. Her expression was sharp, cold, and beautiful in a distant way. When she saw the human officer approach, her lips curved in mock amusement. "So this is my protector," she said, loud enough for her soldiers to laugh. "A Terran? You must be joking." Ryan gave a small bow. "Captain Ryan Hale, Terran Defense Command." She tilted her head. "Do you even know how to fight without your machines, human?" Ryan's face didn't change. "If needed, Princess." "You'll find out." The Varith guards smirked. One whispered. "The human thinks he's brave," another said. "He won't last a day." The laughter echoed through the hangar, but Ryan said nothing. He only looked around, scanning every corner, every angle. His eyes moved like scanners. Slow, steady, aware, the princess walked ahead, her silver gown flowing like mist. "Try not to slow me down," she said. Without looking back, Ryan followed at a measured pace. His boots echoed softly against the metal floor. Each sound was precise, disciplined. Their journey began aboard the royal transport Velora. The ship was massive, larger than most Terran cities, with walls of crystal alloy and corridors lined with guards. Ryan's assigned quarters were simple. Away from the main deck, he didn't mind. Humans were used to being treated as lesser beings among the stars. That night, as the stars stretched outside the viewport, Ryan reviewed the mission file. His eyes paused on the risk assessment. High probability of ambush in the Zethar Rim. It didn't surprise him. He had seen enough wars to know peace treaties always attracted killers. Meanwhile, in the grand dining hall, Princess Lyra laughed with her officers, telling stories of how humans once thought they could rule the galaxy. Her voice was full of arrogance. Her guards laughed too, but one of them noticed something odd through the viewport. "Captain Hale is outside," the guard said. "He's been standing there for hours," Lyra frowned. Curiosity breaking through her pride, she rose and walked to the viewing deck. There he was, still, silent, staring into the stars. His posture calm, but his eyes sharp like a hunter waiting for movement. "What are you doing, human?" she called, her voice echoing across the metallic corridor. Ryan turned slightly. "Listening." "Listening?" she repeated with a scoff. "There's nothing to hear in space." "Then you haven't listened long enough," he replied. Softly for a moment she said nothing. Her pride wanted to laugh again, but something about his tone made her pause. It wasn't arrogance, it was certainty. Later, when the ship entered the outer edges of the Zethar Rim, strange static filled the communication systems. The Varith officers blamed it on interference, but Ryan's instincts told him otherwise. He began quietly adjusting the ship's defense protocols. His fingers moved across the controls like he had done it 1,000 times before. The next morning, the princess found him in the armory, examining the alien weapon racks. "Still pretending to be useful?" she asked, arms crossed. Ryan looked up. "I prefer to be prepared." "For what?" she asked. "Peace?" He gave a small smile. "Peace never lasts." Her words caught in her throat. She wanted to argue, but she couldn't find a reason. There was something about his calmness that made her uneasy, like standing beside a dormant volcano. When the ship's alarm suddenly flickered for a second, no one noticed but Ryan. He looked up, eyes narrowing. His instincts whispered what the sensors couldn't detect yet. "They're coming." He turned off the screen and walked back toward his cabin, whispering under his breath, "This mission is not what they think it is." Far behind him, In the cold of space, 12 cloaked ships drifted in silence, invisible to the naked eye, moving slowly toward the Valora, their weapons charged. Their orders simple: kill the princess. Leave no witnesses, and in the quiet of his quarters, Ryan sat with his eyes closed, hearing the faint hum of enemy drives. His face remained calm, but in his mind a switch had flipped. The mission nobody wanted was about to become the mission no one would forget. The next morning, the Valora glided through the shadowed lanes of the Zethar Rim, a region of space where light itself seemed afraid to linger. Every radar ping came back distorted. Every transmission crackled like ghosts whispering in static. Ryan stood on the observation deck again, his eyes moving across the black horizon. He had slept only 2 hours, his mind replaying the subtle flicker of the alarms from the night before. Something out there had brushed against the ship's systems. Something alive. Something watching. The alien officers laughed off his concern. Commander Zareen, a tall Varith female with silver skin and piercing gold eyes, scoffed at him. "You humans see danger in shadows," she said. "The princess is safe here, you can rest, soldier." But Ryan didn't rest. He walked the ship's halls in silence, noting every vent, every maintenance shaft, every blind spot in the patrol pattern. His steps were quiet, his gaze analytical. Like a predator pacing a cage he knew would soon be attacked. Princess Lyra, bored from the long voyage, decided to amuse herself. She found Ryan inspecting a power conduit panel near the ship's rear bay. "Are you repairing the ship now, human?" she teased, arms crossed. "Or are you afraid of the dark?" Ryan didn't look up. "Both maybe," he said calmly. She smirked. "You think we're in danger?" "I don't think," he replied softly. "I know." Her laughter filled the corridor. "You humans and your fear, always expecting an attack, always imagining war." Ryan turned then, his blue eyes reflecting the faint red emergency light overhead. "Because war never ends, princess, it just changes faces." His tone made her pause. There was something in his voice, a quiet weight that carried stories he hadn't told. For a brief second she almost asked what he'd seen, but pride stopped her. She turned away with a flick of her hair. "Paranoid as ever," she murmured. Hours later, in the ship's command bridge, Ryan noticed something strange. The security grid showed a brief energy fluctuation near the lower cargo deck. Less than a second long, but too precise to be random. He walked to the terminal and replayed the data. His eyes narrowed. 12 energy signatures. Faint but organized. Moving like a formation through the void. Each one maintaining silent communication, cloaked beneath an advanced jamming field. He tapped the console, amplifying the feed, and felt his stomach tighten. Assassins, he thought. He had seen this tactic before on Vega 9, where an entire Terran fleet had been destroyed by 12 invisible hunters. He walked straight to the bridge officer. "I need immediate clearance to activate internal countermeasures." The officer frowned. "For what reason?" "Because there are 12 unknown contacts following us," Ryan said. His voice calm but firm. The officer chuckled. "Sensors show nothing. Human imagination again." Ryan leaned closer, lowering his tone. "They're cloaked. The fluctuation lasted 0.8 seconds at Vector 96. If we don't prepare now, they'll breach the hull before we detect them." The Varith officer laughed openly. "You think you know more than our scanners?" "You're dismissed." "Captain." Ryan stepped back, nodding slowly. "Understood." He didn't argue, he never did. Instead, he moved toward the cargo bay, his pace even, his mind already calculating. He entered the storage level, dimly lit and silent. He opened his equipment case and took out a small Terran device, an old model motion detector used in pre-Galactic wars. Crude but reliable. He placed it against the hull. A low hum filled the air, barely audible. Then click, 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 12 signals closing in. Ryan's jaw tightened, he whispered. "They're here." Meanwhile, in her private chamber, Princess Lyra sat reading her holo-tablet when the lights flickered. For a moment she felt a chill. The air seemed to shift, and somewhere far below, a soft metallic thud echoed through the ship. She frowned and called the bridge. "Status report?" "All systems normal, Princess," came the response. But even through the static she heard uncertainty. Ryan appeared at her door a minute later. His armor half-sealed, his rifle magnetized to his back. His calm expression had hardened into focus. "What now?" she asked sharply. "Another one of your ghost alarms?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked to the window and stared out into the darkness. Then he said quietly, 12 ships are approaching. They'll breach in less than 5 minutes. Lyra's eyes widened. That's impossible. Our sensors... They're blind to Terran tech, Ryan interrupted. These assassins know how to hide from you, but not from me. Before she could respond, the ship trembled slightly. A distant explosion rippled through the hull. The lights flickered red. Ryan turned toward her, his voice calm but cold. Stay in this room, lock the door. And don't make a sound, she froze. You're going to fight them? Alone? He nodded, securing his helmet, the armor sealed with a hiss. It's what I was trained for. The princess stepped closer, voice trembling. You can't stop 12 assassins by yourself. Ryan's visor lowered, glowing faintly blue. Watch me, he said and walked out. Down in the cargo hold, the first hull breach opened. Silent figures in black armor slipped through the crack, their blades humming with invisible energy. They moved like shadows, precise, ruthless, unstoppable, but waiting for them in the dark. Hidden behind a stack of fuel cells was a single human heartbeat, calm, steady, waiting. Captain Ryan Hale exhaled slowly, gripping his rifle, whispering to himself, let's see what ghosts bleed like. The hunt had begun, and in the cold silence of the Zethar Rim, humanity was about to remind the galaxy why Terrans were feared. The first explosion ripped through the Vylora's lower deck like thunder tearing open the void. Metal screamed, alarms flared red, and the Royal Guard scrambled in confusion. Smoke filled the corridor, cutting the lights into broken flashes of red and black. Captain Ryan Hale moved through the chaos like a shadow with purpose. His armor sealed tight, the Terran exosuit humming quietly as its energy core came online. The faint glow of blue light pulsed across his chest plate, a reminder of forgotten wars humanity once fought alone. He reached the lower bay first, crouching beside a fallen guard. The man's armor was melted clean through. The mark of a plasma blade. Ryan touched the wound. Still warm, 12, he thought. 12 assassins, fast organized and trained for silent kills. Through the smoke, a shape moved, almost invisible. Then another. Ryan's visor flickered as his Terran sensors adjusted to trace the faint energy distortion of the cloaks. There you are, he whispered. He raised his rifle, squeezed the trigger once. A flash of kinetic fire tore through the air. The cloaked figure shimmered, its invisibility fading as it fell to the deck, dead before it hit the floor. The others froze for half a second, surprised that was all he needed. Ryan rolled behind a crate, the sound of plasma blades slicing through metal as sparks rained down. He moved fast, controlled, deliberate, every step calculated, every shot clean each time he fired. Another assassin fell above him on the command deck. Princess Lyra watched the chaos unfold on the monitors. Her heart pounded as she saw flashes of motion. But what truly shocked her was the human, her useless escort, moving through a battlefield with terrifying precision. She turned to Commander Zareen. Get him support. Zareen's voice was tense. We can't reach him, they've jammed comms. Lyra slammed her hand against the console. Then send a squad manually. The commander hesitated. Princess, those are Zarketh assassins. 12 of them could destroy a cruiser alone. Lyra stared at the screen again. Ryan was already taking them apart one by one. He's not running, she whispered. He's hunting. Back in the bay, one assassin lunged from behind, a blade slicing through the air. Ryan caught the motion in his peripheral, spun, and slammed his armored elbow into the attacker's throat. The alien dropped instantly, choking on its own breath. A second tried to flank him from the side. Ryan ducked low, drew his sidearm, and fired 2 precise shots into its chest. It collapsed beside the first. But the assassins were learning. 3 of them moved in unison, firing disruptor charges that shattered his cover. Ryan dove behind a fallen container, armor sparking as debris cut into the plating. His HUD flickered, power readings dropping by 12%. He gritted his teeth. Not bad, he muttered. But not enough. He switched to manual combat mode, activating the exosuit's kinetic amplifiers. His strength doubled, his reflexes sharpened. The hum of Terran technology filled the air, a sound older than most alien civilizations in this quadrant. When the next assassin appeared, Ryan didn't shoot. He moved fast and silent, his gauntlet crushing the alien's wrist, twisting its blade free. He kicked it backward into a wall and used its own weapon to finish it. The last few assassins regrouped, forming a semicircle. Their leader, taller than the rest, spoke through a modulated voice. Terran, your kind should have stayed extinct. Ryan tilted his head slightly. Funny, he said, people keep telling me that. Then he vanished. The exosuit's stealth layer shimmered to life. The assassins looked around in confusion. One shouted, "Where is he?" A blue flash answered. The leader fell first, his armor crushed by a single blow. The rest didn't last 5 seconds. The sounds of breaking metal, cracking bone, and silenced screams filled the bay. When the smoke cleared, Ryan stood alone, surrounded by bodies, his breathing steady. The floor was scorched, the walls scarred, but the princess was alive. The mission continued. He tapped his communicator. Static hissed. "Bridge, area secure," no reply. The jamming field was still active, he sighed, slinging his rifle over his shoulder. His armor's blue glow dimmed, returning to standby. 12 assassins, he muttered, looking at the fallen leader. "You should have brought 20. Moments later, the cargo bay doors opened. Princess Lyra stepped in with 2 guards. She stopped at the sight. Her words caught in her throat. The once spotless floor was now a graveyard. Ryan turned toward her, visor retracting, his face calm and unreadable. "They're neutralized," he said simply. She stared at him speechless, her pride, her mockery, all gone, replaced by something new. Respect, mixed with disbelief. You did this alone?" she asked quietly. He nodded once. "Yes," she looked around, then back at him. "You're human," she said softly, as if it no longer meant weakness. Ryan's gaze held hers for a moment. Then he turned toward the corridor. "We all are," he said. "But not all of us are harmless." The ship fell silent again. But not with fear, with awe. The galaxy would remember this moment. The night the useless human escort became the legend whispered across the stars. The man who stood against 12 assassins and didn't miss a single shot. Smoke drifted through the hallways of the Valora like gray ghosts. The alarms finally silenced, leaving only the sound of sparking wires and distant groans of the wounded. The once proud royal vessel now looked like a battered relic, scorched and dented from the battle that had nearly ended it. Captain Ryan Hale stood in the middle of the devastation, armor cracked and blackened with burn marks, his breathing slow but steady. His visor flickered off, revealing eyes that looked calm, too calm for what had just happened. Princess Lyra entered behind him, her long gown torn from running, guards following at a cautious distance. She stopped when she saw the 12 bodies lined neatly in a row, their black armor stripped of weapons, their helmets removed. The assassins' faces were alien and pale, each one with the same insignia burned into their armor, a serpent wrapped around a star. Ryan's voice broke the silence, low and controlled. "They're Zarketh elite mercenaries. They don't take contracts unless the target is worth more than a planet." Lyra stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "Then someone wanted me dead badly." Ryan nodded once. "Very badly." The commander arrived behind her. Stunned by the scene, "You did all this?" she asked, disbelief in her tone. Ryan didn't answer. He was kneeling beside one of the corpses. Pulling out a small device from its belt, he pressed a button, and a hologram flickered to life. An encrypted transmission marked Class Omega. The words on it were brief but chilling. "Eliminate the Vareth heir before treaty confirmation." "Do not fail." Lyra's face went pale. "The treaty—" "If I died, the alliance with the Terrans would collapse." Ryan stood, holding the projector out to her. "That's why they sent me," he said quietly. She blinked. "What?" He looked at her, eyes sharp. "You think this mission was random? The Council knew there would be an attempt. They didn't tell you because they didn't trust your court. They sent someone expendable, someone who wouldn't hesitate when things got ugly." Her chest tightened. "Expendable?" Ryan gave a faint, humorless smile. "That's what humans are to the galaxy, Princess. Tools for dirty work." She stared at him, unable to speak. The pride and arrogance that once shaped her every word were gone, replaced by a strange heaviness in her chest. Ryan turned to the commander. "Get your techs to scan for any tracking beacons." "We're not safe yet." The commander nodded and hurried away, leaving the princess and Ryan alone in the dim light. Lyra stepped closer, looking at him differently now, not as a soldier, not as a servant, but as someone who had carried the weight of war before she ever saw one. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked softly. "Would you have listened?" He replied without looking at her. She didn't answer, because she knew the truth. She would have laughed, dismissed him just like before. They walked through the corridor together, past broken panels and smoke. The crew saluted Ryan as he passed. Even the Vareth guards who had mocked him before. Respect replaced contempt in the command room. Technicians worked to restore systems. Ryan checked the navigation map. They came from this direction, he said, pointing at a sector on the holographic grid. Zarketh ships don't operate without a safe port. That means there's a hidden base nearby. Lyra frowned. You're suggesting we attack? I'm suggesting we survive, he said calmly. If we leave them alive, they'll try again. She hesitated. And you plan to do it alone again? Ryan's eyes lifted to hers. No, he said, but I'll lead. Her voice softened. You're serious. I always am, he replied. Then turned to leave the room. Lyra followed him to the hangar, where his Terran dropship, a small dark vessel, waited in the corner. Unlike anything the Vareth had seen. You carry your own ship? She asked, surprised. He glanced back. Always have. She folded her arms, watching him prepare for launch. You saved my life, Ryan Hale, she said. And yet you act as if it means nothing. He paused at the ramp. It means everything, he said. But meaning doesn't change what's next. Her voice trembled slightly. And what is next? He looked over his shoulder. Finishing what they started, as the dropship lifted off. Lyra stood at the edge of the hangar, watching the thrusters flare blue for the first time. She felt something she had never felt before toward a human. Admiration mixed with guilt. Outside, the ship vanished into the stars, heading toward the shadowed edge of the Zethar rim where the assassins had come from. In the silence that followed, the princess whispered to herself, maybe humans aren't weak. Back in his cockpit, Ryan adjusted his controls, eyes locked on the faint energy trail ahead. The enemy's base was close, the mission wasn't over. Not yet. He leaned back in his seat, voice calm and steady. You wanted a war, he murmured. Now you've got one. And with that, the Terran ship disappeared into the black, silent and deadly, as the stars themselves seemed to shiver. The royal flagship Velora floated above the quiet rim of Zethar. Scarred but still shining, repairs echoed through the hallways, sparks flickering like fireflies. Yet beneath the hum of machinery, the entire crew moved differently now. They walked with quiet awe, because of the human who had faced 12 assassins and survived. Ryan Hale returned from the mission 2 days later. His dropship touched down on the main hangar with silent grace. The hull carried new burns, the paint scorched, but it was still intact. Inside, the man who had once been mocked as useless stepped out. Armor blackened, eyes sharp and calm, Princess Lyra stood waiting, no longer draped in gold or arrogance but in a simple uniform. Her guards saluted Ryan as he passed, an honor they would never have given to a human before. She took a step forward, her voice soft but steady. Captain Hale, he stopped and nodded. Princess. For a long moment she said nothing. Her eyes traced the cracks in his armor, the scars along his gauntlet. You went to their base alone, she finally said. The enemy outpost. I saw the satellite images. There's nothing left. Ryan's tone remained quiet. They won't try again. You destroyed them all? She asked, disbelief mixed with admiration. He didn't boast, didn't explain, only replied. They made their choice. The silence stretched. Filled with respect, she lowered her gaze. When you first came aboard, I thought humans were weak. Emotional, soft, she said. But you're none of those things. Ryan looked past her, toward the galaxy outside the hangar. We are all of those things, he said, but that's what makes us dangerous. Her lips parted slightly. The words sinking deep, he turned to leave, but she stopped him with one more question. Why did you come back? You could have gone home and no one would have blamed you. He paused at the ramp, his voice low. Because I gave my word to protect you, and Terrans don't break promises. Something shifted inside her, a quiet realization that strength was not always loud or proud. Sometimes it was steady, patient and unshakable. Later that day, in the Grand Council chamber of Vareth Prime, Princess Lyra stood before the Galactic Council. The news of the attack had spread across systems. Every delegate expected her to blame humanity. Instead, she raised her voice and said, Without the Terran Captain Ryan Hale, I would not be standing here. Humanity deserves a place among the great powers, not as servants, but as equals. Her words rippled through the chamber like a storm. Some protested, others listened in silence. But history shifted that day. When the meeting ended, she found Ryan waiting quietly outside, leaning against a pillar, his eyes distant, It's done, she told him. You've changed everything. He smiled faintly. I didn't change anything, Princess. I just did my job. She stepped closer. No, she said softly. You reminded us what courage looks like. He met her gaze one last time. Then remember it, he said. Because humans never fight for glory, only for those who can't. As he turned and walked toward his ship, the hangar lights reflected off his armor. The Terran emblem glowed faintly, a silent symbol of humanity's return to the stars. Princess Lyra watched as his vessel lifted off, rising into the endless dark. For a moment she whispered to herself, the useless human became our savior. The Vylora's crew stood silently as the human ship disappeared among the stars, and somewhere out there Captain Ryan Hale smiled beneath his helmet, whispering the Terran motto under his breath, never underestimate Earth. The galaxy had learned that truth the hard way, and it would never forget.